interesting. What is Google's thinking about this? Is this kind of just a fun project? Are you really serious about it? And do you anticipate a lot of development activity around this? I mean, Microsoft has been talking about the digital home for 2 decades and nothing's happened, essentially. What are your thoughts along those lines?
Right. I think it's important to think about it in slightly different terms, and I tried to explain it that way in the keynote, which is that we're thinking about all of these devices as really I/O subsystems for Android applications. So we don't think that we're going to come up necessarily with what the killer applications are for using this technology, but by embedding the ability to control any device or monitor any device in your home from an Android application, we think that enables a crazy number of new opportunities for application developers to build software. And we also realize that in order to do that, it has to be an extremely low-cost adder. So witness the LED light bulb, Lighting Science is going to be shipping by the end of the year. Every one of those bulbs is going to have this technology embedded in it. You'll be able to talk to them and control them. I'm sure that we'll provide some boilerplate software to get users and developers started, but really we're counting on the imagination of the developer ecosystem to figure out the best ways to take advantage of it.
So if you think about it as a platform, right, the Android phones and tablets that you're carrying out with you today are part of that platform. We're extending that platform into the home. I feel like there's a little bit of a chicken or egg. If an OEM were to do that, it would be most likely today a proprietary solution. By the Android team helping do that means it becomes a standard for all main manufacturers to leverage, thereby creating the opportunity Joe talked about for the third-party developers. To answer the first part of your question, it is a lot of fun. We are really excited about it, but we're also taking it very significantly.
Hello, Ben Park, Mashable. On the Android at home front as well, I'm curious about a little bit about what the timetable like this year, next year, when these appliances and devices will be out. And the other question is, what is the exact technology for, like, what does a manufacturer have to put into a light bulb in order for it to be connected? And can wireless devices that already exist now work on this ecosystem, or does it have to have new technology?
So it does require new technology, but it's a very low-cost technology. We're not ready quite yet to reveal exactly what that is. We're working very closely with some partners to embed that in their products for release by the end of this year.
But we can detail kind of what the components are. There's a software stack. Right. You mentioned the over-the-air protocol.
It is wireless. It's not Wi-Fi.
So
it's very low cost and very low power. It's also very low bandwidth, right? I mean, if you have an application that needs Wi-Fi, then use that. But if you're building something like a dishwasher, it doesn't make sense to burden it with that level of complexity and cost.
Avi Greenberg, Cards Analysis by Denker. What's your message to application developers today around tablets and phones? There aren't that many tablet-specific apps for Android today. And it sounds like, if you're just sitting in the back of the conference here, it sounds like you'd have to wait till Ice Cream Sandwich before you could write one app that dynamically changed the user interface elements based on the screen size. So what is your message in terms of getting more tablet-specific apps out today versus waiting until Ice Cream Sandwich?
So that's actually not true. The music app, for instance, that was demoed today is one single APK, the same binary that runs both on, say, Froyo Gingerbread as well as Honeycomb. So it is possible today to write an application that can handle both versions or multiple versions. And I think our message to developers right now is, please start looking at Honeycomb APIs, develop Honeycomb apps, and also support the phones. And all that investment that we're making today will live on in Ice Cream Sandwich or Unify those two and make it even easier.
A really elegant example that's easy to check out is the Google I/O app. It's not a complex app, but it's actually beautiful how the app comes to life in a completely different way when you look at it on your tablet. And it's exactly the same application download. And there's a ton of publishers in the Android market that are taking the exact same approach today. One application download, like the Music app, like the Google I/O app, and different behaviors depending on the size of the screen.
I assume that you're highlighting that in the market. When I look for a tablet-specific app, I'm going to see those apps that have been developed.
Yeah, there's a featured application section in the Android market for those kinds of applications that look great on tablets.
And specifically, there's another session that we mentioned just specifically about Android market because there was just so much to talk about there. There's a lot of new features and functionality. It's at 10:45 today, starting tomorrow. And we're going to talk about new features of functionality, targeting of those things a lot easier. And then finally, I'd say that I think our commitment, by giving everybody one of these at I/O, could have been a phone, it could have been something else, it could have been, a light bulb. Right now, it's a tablet, so I think our focus really is on making developers successful.
Stephen O'Grady with Braymonk. I'm curious as to how you reconcile sort of the pending and immediate availability of higher bandwidth services with much higher mobile bandwidth costs. A lot of the carriers have retired their unlimited plans, and you guys are obviously in the process of rolling out movies, music, and so on, which have the potential to consume quite a bit of bandwidth. I think AT&T's charges are actually on a per megabyte basis. So the potential overage charges are huge. Now you can pin the movies as we saw in the demo. You have the caching, in the music application. But longer term, obviously, your vision is consuming services from the cloud. So how do you help consumers, manage the potential for really pretty high overage costs on mobile devices?
I think, we go through these cycles, and I think right now we're in a cycle where some of the operators have really congested networks, and then usually there's a step function. One day that, we're complaining and feeling all the pain of these congested networks. The next day, the next generation of LTE rolls out, and everybody's asking us, where's the bandwidth consuming application? We need to sell more services. So I think we're right in the, at the tipping point of another one of those cycles, and we're feeling the compression. It's normal, it's natural. There's always going to be a 4G, a 5G, and a 6G in the future. You can count on it. Technology marches on. The good news is not all networks are congested today. So the ones that typically have some headroom and bandwidth are still offering all you can eat data plans. And also, obviously, there's Wi-Fi. Most of this consumption, I think, will be either at the office or at home. Hopefully, not so much at the office for sure.
I watch movies for my job.
So he can expense that stuff. But I think Wi-Fi is the option for a lot of people as we're going through that transition.
And in fact, we didn't get to show it today just because we ran out of time, but in the videos application, it asks you, you're about to stream this movie, for example, over your wide area network. Do you want to do this on Wi-Fi? So we give users the ability to really control how they use the bandwidth.
And if you think about just generally, if you think about the evolution of technology, you think about how Moore's Law works. Moore's Law works great for processors, that cycle is well understood, but for systems that have batteries, processors, and networks, Moore's Law it's not the same law. There's probably going to be like a Lockhart law or something that comes out that explains how the system of those things together work. It is trackable, it is getting, as a system, a lot better. It's just not at the same pace.
Hi, I'm Brett Garcia from Vivo. I have a question related to Android at Home again. I would be interested in why you guys chose to develop a different protocol as opposed to maybe going with Zigbee or something like that. And also, maybe you can tell me a little bit about the bigger vision of how Android at Home is going to plug into the smart grid.
Okay, so for the first question, we haven't announced what we're using, so it could be anything. For the second question, we looked at a lot of the efforts that are going on right now around smart grid. You're talking about from the energy monitoring point of view, or are you talking about from the load control point of view?
I think energy monitoring is awesome.
Yeah, so energy monitoring is extremely interesting. But our opinion is that you need to have very fine granularity monitoring so that you can understand not just how many kilowatts per hour your house is consuming, but what devices in the home are contributing to that. Does that answer your question? No? No? What?
Mike Mills from Great Web. Yesterday you announced something about 3,000 movies being added to YouTube for rental, and I'm wondering today what the deal is. Why was it? Is it two separate deals? Is it 3,000 movies for Android? Can we see these on our home PC? Is it just tablets and phones? Studios that you're working with? Any more detail on that? What's on the blog?
So the movie service you saw today is powered by the same YouTube backend. We developed that in conjunction with them. So it's the same set of movies that you'll be able to view both through the Android market as well as YouTube.
so the YouTube rentals experience on the web was pre-existing with a certain catalog of content. What YouTube announced yesterday was adding 3,000 new titles, primarily from major studios, and those 3 studios are NBC, Universal, Sony, and Warner Brothers. And all of the content added into that system, which is completely interoperable with what we launched today, is also available in the Android market experience. And by the way, rentals in either system are viewable across the services as well.
So to be clear, if you rent a movie on Android Market, you can watch it on YouTube. Vice versa.
Hey, Brian Womack here with Bloomberg News. Hey, I just had to throw this out. In the early part of the presentation, you had a little robot eating an apple. Not a lot of subtlety there. Can you talk about how much do you really think about Apple as you're putting all these services out that go right after the biggest tech company by market cap?
We have the culprit right here.
You know, we were just having a little bit of fun. We thought that, recall people's mind to last year's keynote. We didn't try not to take ourselves too seriously. We're all doing really amazing work, and I think each team inspires the other to work harder. And in the end, it's consumers that benefit, and it's great to be in a battle for the hearts and minds of developers, and I think everybody wins.
Hi, Stephen Levy from Wired. Hi, folks. The YouTube question, the smart grids, and in other words, I guess underlie the fact that Android is getting into a lot of areas, in some cases taking the lead, in some cases adding to where Google's involved in some of its other properties there. Andy, maybe you could walk us through a little bit about how that works, and when there's an Android thing that might be involved in Chrome or YouTube or whatever, how that's evolving now that Android is such a success.
Well, I mean, Stephen, you let these androids out of their cage and they wander around, you give them autonomy and their feet and stuff, you never can tell where they're going to go. So that's one of the powerful things about open source, actually. I mean, this isn't something that you guys should think of as a Google product, right? This is something that is a community-driven thing. We open source it, people do stuff with it that really surprise us. What Google likes doing occasionally is shining the spotlight on an opportunity, and that's what we've done with the at-home stuff and some of the peripheral devices surrounding it. And I think Joe describes it really, really well, right? If there's a circle, and the center of that circle is the Android devices that we launched today, the 100 million number that Hugo launched on stage. That is the center of gravity, but there's a bunch of things that are going to orbit that, right? And there's rings of things that are going to orbit that in the future. We want to make sure that that's an ever-expanding circle and make more and more things orbit.
Quentin Hardy from Forbes. The hardware SDK. Hi.
Oh, there you are. Just if we stood up, the lights are bright.
Okay.
There you go.
The hardware SDK seems to have some pretty